To Secretary Chu, thank you for appearing as we continue to discuss the President's budget, and that's the fundamental question here. We all have views on energy policy, and I share many of your views and have supported a number of the energy bills that Senator Conrad has referred to. You're a man of great accomplishment, and I've appreciated getting to know you, but you now hold the job of Secretary of Energy, and energy at an affordable price is essential to our economic future. It's not a theoretical or academic matter. Right now, we're in the midst of a growing fiscal crisis, and it is crucially important that we have an honest conversation about the challenges we face. The President and his budget director tell us their budget plan doesn't add to the debt, that we are living within our means, but the plain fact is the budget doubles our gross national debt, never once produces an annual deficit of less than $600 billion in its 10 years. The President's Education Secretary told us that the administration was making tough cuts and difficult choices to make our programs leaner and more productive, but the budget called for another 11% spike in education funding following a 68% increase over the last 3 years. Perhaps the most consistent spin is the repeated claim that every cent of new government spending is an investment in our future. Just because you call something an investment doesn't make it so, certainly not a good investment. If the administration's argument held true, then even our nation would be thoroughly enriched by this year's spending spree and the $1.65 trillion deficit. In reality, the most obvious result of what we've done is that this massive surge in federal spending is a crushing debt burden that has grown the government at the expense of the private sector. So while your energy budget increases spending substantially, I reject the idea that you have made an investment necessarily in a better future. To the contrary, instead of wisely investing the taxpayers' money, the plan often would waste it. We have magnificent energy resources in this country from which we can create thousands of jobs without adding to the deficit, and yet these resources remain under lock and key. The American people expect fact-based budgeting that produces more energy, not locking it up. The simple fact is that nearly 10% spending increase you've requested in your budget is not being used to produce large sources of energy that would actually impact the American economy and reduce costs to the American taxpayer, but to chase after the vision of higher cost sources of energy in hopes that somehow we can bring those down, which hasn't been successful to date. As we contend with a sluggish economy and high unemployment, the plain truth is the actions of this administration are making things worse. The gas prices are rising rapidly. Some say to that dangerous level of $4 a gallon. Yet the Interior Secretary issued only one single deep water drilling permit this year, and only after being found in contempt of court for keeping the moratorium on. High gas prices exact a painful toll on American families and have historically done significant damage to the economy. The refusal to drill domestically has cost tens of thousands of high-paying jobs and billions of dollars in low-cost and in lost revenue to the government, to the U.S. Treasury. Offshore drilling rigs are leaving for foreign shores and taking jobs with them. This administration has in the past 2 years revoked oil and gas leases in Utah, Colorado, and Wyoming and shuttered the Gulf of Mexico. One of the major producers there just declared bankruptcy because they couldn't get permits to drill in the shallow waters where we've never had a serious problem. Permits to mine for coal in West Virginia have been withdrawn, and permitting delays have occurred elsewhere with little or no explanation. The failure of your department to advance clean, reasonably priced nuclear power has hurt our nation. We've talked about it. I believe we could have done more. We've got to do more. An estimated 40% of our nation's uranium deposits in Arizona were unilaterally locked up just 2 years ago, leaving us to import 90% of the uranium we use. And green jobs programs subsidized by the overburdened taxpayers have never lived up to those promises that have been made about them. Indeed, the much ballyhooed state-subsidized solar panel plant in Massachusetts, I believe the one you referred to, failed in January, costing 800 jobs. Got $58 million from the state. The experience in Spain cannot be ignored, and the Solendra, the $535 million loan that the government, U.S. government made, seems to be failing already. A recent study by Bjorn Lundborg's Copenhagen Consensus Center demonstrates that the higher prices and job losses that are the result of green energy policies significantly outweigh the jobs created. The reason is that costs of renewable energy are higher than standard forms of energy, so that when they are mandated on the economy, it means more economic inefficiency, higher manufacturing costs, and less disposable income for the Americans or the citizens. So in summary, Dr. Chu, the President's plan, I think, worsens a desperate fiscal circumstance and fails to invest by any honest measure in our nation's real energy future, the challenges we have. America's vast, proven energy reserves that we have are not being unlocked, and they are not being acted on, apparently, in the pursuit of a failed green job stimulus plan that has produced neither energy nor jobs. Instead, the President's plan will produce increased spending, increased taxes, increased regulation, increased reliance on foreign oil, and increased debt. So this plan is a non-starter, and the budget is a non-starter. We don't have the money. So we need to replace it with a plan that actually does invest in our future by producing more low-cost energy. It makes it easier on Americans' families, unlocking the vast energy sources that belong to the American people and keeping dollars and jobs in America, making us stronger and not weaker.